Hi, and welcome to this tutorial about the Domaudeo DMX sequencer driver for Control4. This driver is part of the Domaudeo Advanced DMX suite for Control4. If you're not already familiar with this driver suite and the way it handles group of DMX channel, we suggest you to take a look at our other tutorials. So today we will take a look at some of the features of the DMX sequencer and the wiring procedure to enable the sound to light function. To enable sound to light, you need to have a Control4 audio matrix in your project. We need to use a spare zone output on the matrix to get the audio signal needed for sound to light. Let's take a look at how to wire this thing up. So this is the back of a good old Control4 matrix version 2. First, we need to feed the matrix with any audio source. Here we will use the audio out from an HC250, but any audio source fed into the matrix will also work. Then we need to splice an RCA cable just like this and connect it to a spare output on the matrix. It can be either left or right, it will work anyway. We will connect the other end of the cable to the contact input of the controller using the following pinout. The ground or shielding goes to G and D pin, and the center wire or positive go to the SIG pin, just like this. Don't wire the controller audio output directly to the contact input. It has to go through the matrix to ensure a proper signal strength. Also, do not use an external wireless sensor or this may kill your ZigBee network. Wire things up just as what I've done and it will work. Of course, you also need to connect one of the other output of the matrix to an amplifier and to the speaker in the room just as you always do. Here we will use the output 1 to connect this cable that goes to the amplifier in the other room. Wiring is completed. Let's take a look at the project in Composer. So this is our basic project in Composer. We already added the DMX engine driver. Now we will add the sequencer driver. To do so, go to the search field and type Domaudeo and select the DMX sequencer driver. If we take a look at the properties, we see 4 fields meant for selecting effect switches that will be used to create the sequence. So we will have to add some effect switches to the project and configure them. Let's add 3 of them. Let's call this one Disco. This one will be called Plasma. And this one Chase. I will quickly configure each effect with different settings. As you may have noticed, we have used the same exact channels for each effect. That is required since we want all effects to run on the same group of light. The next step is to go back to the sequencer and add the effect switches to the properties. You can use from 1 to 4 effect devices to create the sequence. Now we need to choose how the effect will be triggered. The first option is hold timer. This simply triggers the effect the number of times set here, and by waiting this amount of time between each trigger. Next, we have the sound to light trigger that can be used in 2 ways. Beat sensing and idle sensing. Beat sensing will trigger the effect if the system senses a beat in the music, and idle sensing will trigger if there's no beat detected for a certain amount of time defined into the sound to light idle delay property right here. Using beat sensing and idle sensing with two separate effects will ensure the light will always be moving, even if the music is smoother and less punchy. Now that the desired effects are configured, the next step is to configure the audio sensing for sound to light. For that, we will need to add a new room that will serve as a virtual audio room. This room is only used to manage the audio output zone and volume from the matrix. It can be hidden from Navigator. Bind the virtual audio room to the audio selection and volume from the matrix zone you've used to connect the contact input of the controller. Also bind the contact input of the controller to the sequencer driver. Now go back to System Design and select the main and the virtual audio room in the sequencer properties. At this point, you can enable the auto-tuning feature that will constantly adjust the volume on the virtual audio room to ensure proper beat triggering. Also, as an advice, you can set the bass and treble on the matrix audio zone to help with beat detection. Okay, now everything is set up for sound to light. Let's play some music and see if it works.